What do you think that we've learned over the last few days in terms of what's going on in Iran? Israel versus Iran and U.S. are getting involved. I mean, have we achieved anything in terms of the nuclear program in Iran, and what have we learned?
Yeah, so I think we've learned a few things in the last few days, but we've also learned a few things in the last few years. This, I think, is part of a broader theme of increasing regional conflicts around the world. We've seen a few flashpoints. Some have resolved rapidly, some are ongoing. And what we've learned in particular in the last few days is the susceptibility of the global order to the Middle East. And, one of the questions around this is oil prices, for example, are highly dependent on what happens in the Middle East. And we've seen swings and volatility in oil prices. They've come down again, but certainly oil prices will continue to be volatile. On the issue itself, I do think that it will take some time for it to reach a conclusion. I'm really glad to see the de-escalation as of this morning. I'm also glad to see that leaders are stepping in to hold up the ceasefire, barring a couple of things. So that's good to see. However, I do realize is that this is a multi-pronged issue. There are questions around the nuclear program. Yep. There are questions around Middle East in general. There are questions around air travel and airspaces. And there's questions around GCC nations that are highly dependent on sea travel for getting goods that they need for the countries. There's also transshipment questions. So it's so multi-pronged that I think it will be several months, if not longer, for this to be resolved on all counts. But encouraging to see what happened this morning.
Yeah, and really the fundamental question is, can we trust this and what comes out of this ceasefire, as you point out? And it's sort of totally buried what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. So do you think that is part of the trend, that we're just seeing yet another sort of a development in this regional conflicts that you were talking about and foresee?
Well, we have seen regional conflict growing all around the world. Different reasons for individual conflicts, but thematically there's a direction. Now, I can speak for the business community and less for the politicians involved here. From a business community standpoint, businesses like steady, non-volatile outcomes. So businesses would like to see resolution, and they would like to have the leaders get to that pretty quickly. They would also like a process that A, they can trust, like you said. B, they would also like a process that is specific in terms of outcomes, because that means that we can get back to business as usual, air travel as usual, shipments and shipping as usual, without worry about future volatility. So I think it's also trust, but it's also about clarity of outcomes that come from the negotiations that will follow, so that the business leaders can make strategic calls on the back of it.
If you look at how the global financial markets are behaving, they're almost pricing in peace in the Middle East, and they're pricing in a lot of trade agreements between the U.S. and a lot of these countries facing high level of tariffs.
Yes.
Is that the right approach? Is that the safe thinking here? What are your takes? What are you telling your clients about trade negotiations?
Yes, look, markets are often wrong in the short term, but in the long term, they tend to get to the right place. So it's of course, they are reacting very optimistically. I do think that uncertainty is a reality. It's not going to go away. Volatility has to be factored in. And one of the things that I give as advice to business leaders is build more buffers, more lead times, more inventory, longer timelines for the discussion, more people who understand trade and trade regulation and can help you navigate the legality and the regulation that has become more complex.
That means higher cost for now.
Yes. In fact, one of the things that we are discussing is that businesses are going to become pudgier, chubbier. They're going to have to keep, but I think it's smart buffers. What I mean is, yes, you become a bit less efficient, but you're providing for more volatility. So you're maybe sacrificing a bit of profit and growth, but you're protecting against heavy downside risks, and therefore you're protecting against black swan negative events to your business. And I think it's still a smart call to make, at least in this environment.
I really like pudgier corporate, the picture of 2025. Really quickly, talk to us about the rising opportunity of the global south.
Yes. So I'm here at the Summer Davos, and I got to say I'm so encouraged that the majority of the discussions are less on doom and gloom and unpacking, but more on solutions and where do we go from here. So what we are seeing is more and more focus on the global south, the GCC, Africa, Asia, really economies where governments are very pro-business and have become even more pro-business, offering opportunities for companies around the world, multinationals from the large economies of the world. The second theme that I'm seeing is AI. there is no regrets that AI will help you manage cost, help you manage complexity, and we're seeing more of that. And so AI, there's a doubling down. So those are the two big themes that I'm seeing. Of course, there are several others.